Please subscribe. It helps a lot.
Jeffrey pressed the camera case against his hip while the crew dragged tents and tripods out of the van. Pine needles covered the trailhead, warm from the afternoon sun. Timberline Lodge sat behind them, huge and still. Beyond it, Mount Hood rose into the sky like stone carved to watch them. The air smelled clean, almost sharp. It felt different from Los Angeles. No fumes, no crowds, only forest and mountain. He wanted to believe this trip could change his life. The director snapped his fingers. Jeffrey lifted the metal case and followed the others. He counted them again, like he often did. 6 men total. The director, the cameraman, the sound guy, 2 grips, and him. The lowest on the ladder. They were filming scenery for a new show. The special would explore the theory of Bigfoot in Oregon. Rumor had it Leonard Nimoy himself was going to narrate. Mostly, they expected to camp, film trees, and leave. Jeffrey wanted more. He wanted proof of something unknown. He wanted to matter. Alan, one of the grips, walked beside him. Alan always moved slow and spoke softer than the others. He offered a real smile. Perfect weather for mysteries, right? Jeffrey nodded. Words caught in his throat. He carried a quiet tension everywhere, tight behind his ribs. New places always pressed him away, as if the soil rejected him. He feared the film crew felt the same. They hiked until the van disappeared from view. A small clearing held flat ground where the tents would go. The director raised his voice. We want night recordings. If we get anything weird on audio, we can build a whole segment around it. He pointed at Jeffrey. We need usable sound, no excuses. A few of the men snickered. The sound guy rolled his eyes. Bigfoot is a fairy tale. We should film campers and call it a day Jeffrey stayed silent. His heartbeat gave him away, though. He could feel the pressure to perform. They unloaded gear and set up tents. They set up a fire. While the men joked about the creature and about the absurd nature of the assignment, Jeffrey checked the sound recorder. He handled it like something precious. If he captured even one strange noise, he would be more than the quiet new kid. Night arrived like a curtain pulled across the sky. The fire threw orange light over the group. Someone passed around a flask. They told stories about strange sightings from past shoots, and other horror stories, mostly about how horrible Bette Davis and John Wayne actually are. None of them believed a creature with huge footprints roamed the forest. When the director asked for volunteers to gather night ambience, nobody spoke. The men looked at each other. Then the director pointed at Jeffrey. You're so desperate, why don't you go record some gold? Jeffrey rose to his feet. Yes. He strapped a light onto the recorder and stepped away from the fire. Everyone watched him for a moment before the conversation resumed. Their voices faded behind him. The forest welcomed him and swallowed him in the same moment. The trail turned narrow, branches arched overhead and blocked out the moon. His flashlight beam carved a white path between trunks. He walked farther. Frogs croaked near a creek. The recorder captured every bark, every chirp. Something cracked behind him. He halted. The sound echoed through the woods. Not a twig. Something heavy. Something alive. The frogs silenced. The breeze seemed to vanish. He swung the light across the brush. Only trees. Stillness pressed against him. Hello? His voice sounded thin. No reply. He pressed the record button and spoke into the mic. Possible presence near camp. Movement in brush. Continuing forward, he moved deeper. Each step reached into darkness where the light faded. The forest floor sloped downward. Another snap echoed. His pulse quickened. The space behind him felt occupied. He tried the walkie clipped to his belt. This is Jeffrey. Do you copy? Static burst out, rough and sharp. He steadied his breath. Maybe a bear. Maybe nothing. He walked farther. A third snap rang out, slow, deliberate. The recorder picked it up, then footsteps, heavy, slow. They followed his pace. He took one step. The sound took one step. His throat tightened. He turned the light in a wide arc, hunting for movement. Nothing. Only the dark shape of a trunk. Then another. Then something thicker, taller than any tree near camp. He stepped back. The footsteps stopped. He took another step. The sound returned. He spotted a shape not 50 feet behind him, huge, almost still, not a bear, not a person. His body froze. He wasn't sure the shape was real until it tilted its head. "Please," he whispered. The shape moved toward him. No charge, no rush. A slow approach. Jeffrey turned and ran. Roots grabbed at his boots. His lungs burned. He searched for the trail, desperate. He wasn't an outdoorsman. He was a city boy. The recorder bounced against his chest with every stride. Branches whipped at his arms. The thing behind him moved at a steady pace. It did not need to sprint. He tripped over a mud-covered root and crashed onto his knees. The flashlight skidded away. He crawled toward it. His hands shook so much he nearly dropped the recorder. He reached the light and swung it around. The creature stood at the ridge. Its outline blocked the faint glow of the sky. Massive, silent. It stood far enough away to see its silhouette, but not close enough to make it out with the dim light. He lifted the walkie again. "Please, answer." Static only static. The shape tilted its head once more. Jeffrey forced himself to stand. Both knees and the palm of his left hand burned. He pointed the flashlight ahead and stumbled downward, deeper into the trees. It followed, and he knew, without proof, without reason, that something wanted him to keep going, into the dark, into whatever waited below. Jeffrey moved downhill until the ridge vanished behind trees. He refused to look back. The recorder hung from his shoulder. The light shook in his hand. The air felt colder here. The soil softened under each step. His breath came fast, uneven, and he tried to force it into silence. If he stayed quiet enough, maybe the thing behind him would lose interest. A branch snapped again. He spun. The beam caught nothing. No shape, no outline. Only empty space where the creature stood moments earlier. He pressed the walkie. "Crew, respond." The radio answered with static. No voice, no comfort, no escape route. The footsteps resumed. He knew the rhythm now. Slow, patient, heavy weight placed with care. Whoever or whatever followed him never rushed. It did not need to. The forest bent in its favor. Jeffrey tried to pick a direction. Forward meant farther from the trail. Sideways led into thicker brush. Backward meant facing the creature. He turned forward and pushed between inch-thick branches. Needles scratched his neck as the path tightened. The flashlight beam trembled across moss and slickstones. The woods opened into a steeper slope where the ground dropped sharply. He attempted to step down with care. His boot slipped. He fell sideways and hit the dirt hard. The flashlight clattered out of reach and rolled through ferns. Pain shot up his arm. He pulled his body upright and crawled toward the light. Pine needles stuck to his palms. A rustling sound grew behind him. He turned his head. Two pale reflections stared at him from between trees. Not headlights, not a flashlight. Eyes. They blinked once. He pushed himself up and ran. Fallen branches clawed at his legs. Roots pushed through the earth like black veins. Each breath scraped his throat. He felt the eyes on him without needing to look. He sensed presence and weight behind every step. He reached a narrow flat stretch. He paused long enough to listen. Silence. He tried the walkie again. "Alan. Anyone. I need assistance. I think something is tracking me." More static. Then a faint break in the noise. A voice tried to reach him. "Jeffrey, where you go?" He pressed the button. "I'm deep off trail, northwest. I'm northwest. Something is after me. The signal died again. A crackle, a hiss. Silence. He inched forward. His nerves shook and he forced his fingers tight around the flashlight. He focused the beam into a dark span of undergrowth. Leaves shivered. The earth moved. A shape lifted from a crouch. He held in a gasp. Stop. The shape did not stop. It moved into a narrow space between two large trunks. Jeffrey's knees wobbled. The creature towered over the brush. Broad shoulders, thick limbs, long fur covered everything except the faint gleam of its eyes. And it smelled exactly like an animal its size should. It took one slow step toward him. Jeffrey turned and bolted farther down the slope. He stumbled, caught himself, but he kept running. He pushed through ferns taller than his waist. The slope pulled him forward faster than he wanted. He lost his footing again and slid several feet until his hands struck a rock ledge. He looked down. Far below, he saw a dark ravine, thin and narrow. A gully's worth of rock and bracken. Then he heard it. Something cracked behind him. He halted. The sound echoed through the woods. Not a twig. Something heavy. Something alive. The frogs silenced. The breeze seemed to vanish. He swung the light across the brush. Only trees. Stillness pressed against him. Hello? His voice sounded thin. No reply. He pressed the record button and spoke into the mic. Possible presence near camp. Movement in brush. Continuing forward, he moved deeper. Each step reached into darkness where the light faded. The forest floor sloped downward. Another snap echoed. His pulse quickened. The space behind him felt occupied. He tried the walkie clipped to his belt. This is Jeffrey. Do you copy? Static burst out, rough and sharp. He steadied his breath. Maybe a bear. Maybe nothing. He walked farther. A third snap rang out, slow, deliberate. The recorder picked it up. Then footsteps, heavy, slow. They followed his pace. He took one step. The sound took one step. His throat tightened. He turned the light in a wide arc, hunting for movement. Nothing. Only the dark shape of a trunk. Then another. Then something thicker, taller than any tree near camp. He stepped back. The footsteps stopped. He took another step. The sound returned. He spotted a shape not 50 feet behind him, huge, almost still, not a bear, not a person. His body froze. He wasn't sure the shape was real until it tilted its head. Please, he whispered. The shape moved toward him. No charge, no rush. A slow approach. Jeffrey turned and ran. Roots grabbed at his boots. His lungs burned. He searched for the trail, desperate. He wasn't an outdoorsman. He was a city boy. The recorder bounced against his chest with every stride. Branches whipped at his arms. The thing behind him moved at a steady pace. It did not need to sprint. He tripped over a mud-covered root and crashed onto his knees. The flashlight skidded away. He crawled toward it. His hands shook so much he nearly dropped the recorder. He reached the light and swung it around. The creature stood at the ridge. Its outline blocked the faint glow of the sky. Massive, silent. It stood far enough away to see its silhouette, but not close enough to make it out with the dim light. He lifted the walkie again. Please, answer. Static only static. The shape tilted its head once more. Jeffrey forced himself to stand. Both knees and the palm of his left hand burned. He pointed the flashlight ahead and stumbled downward, deeper into the trees. It followed, and he knew, without proof, without reason, that something wanted him to keep going, into the dark, into whatever waited below. Jeffrey knelt beside the injured hiker. Moonlight touched the young man's cheek and revealed a faint sheen of sweat. His breath came in weak bursts. One look at the twisted leg told Jeffrey the bone needed care he could not provide out here. He reached for the camera bag to use the strap as a splint tie, but his hands shook too much to stay steady. The hiker swallowed and cleared his throat. "Please don't leave me." His voice nearly broke. "I won't." Jeffrey placed a palm over the young man's shoulder. He wanted the words to feel solid. "My name is Jeffrey. I'm with a filming crew up near the lodge. We were doing night recording." The hiker nodded, eyes squeezed shut. His hair looked blonde beneath the grime. His skin carried a pale glow, as if sunlight once lived in his cheeks and had since drained away. He pressed his lips together and forced a steady breath. "My name is Tim." A tremble passed through him. "My leg snapped when I slipped down here. I tried to climb back up, but I blacked out. I think it has been 6 days." Jeffrey studied him. Tim did not look starved, though he appeared thin and exhausted. Something else troubled Jeffrey. "You said you thought no one would find you. How have you survived without food?" Tim moved his head slightly to the side, hesitant. "I woke up 2 mornings ago. Something was leaving bits of berries near me. Once it left a strip of dried fish. I never saw it. It only came when I was sleeping." Jeffrey's breath hitched. He did not interrupt. Tim swallowed again. "I know it sounds insane. I know I sound unstable. I would have died out here without whatever helped me." Jeffrey glanced toward the ridge where the creature stood earlier. No sign of it now. The trees stood like silent sentries. "Tim, I am not going to leave you here. But your leg needs support before we try to move." He removed the spare jacket from his pack and tore a long strip from the inner lining. The fabric ripped easily. He ignored the sting in his own scraped arm and wrapped the fabric around Tim's injured leg above the break. Tim's jaw tightened. He clenched the earth with both hands. "Sorry," Jeffrey murmured. He worked carefully. No hurry, no panic. "I need to keep the bone steady." A low groan slid from Tim's throat. Then it faded. He forced a thin smile. "You sound calm." "You don't seem scared of me or the dark. I am scared." Jeffrey felt the words push past his guarded voice. "I felt something following me." He fought off the memory of those pale eyes. "I thought it hunted me." He helped Tim roll onto his side. Then he eased Tim upright, guiding the injured leg slow. Tim leaned against Jeffrey's shoulder. Their bodies pressed together. Jeffrey felt Tim's breath near his neck. Something tender moved in Jeffrey's chest, unexplored and fragile. "Thank you," Tim whispered, voice thin. "You don't have to thank me," Jeffrey said. He felt unworthy of this attention, as it was really the animal who led him here. Tim's eyes softened. In the dark, their closeness made time feel suspended. A silent acknowledgement passed between them. Connection. 2 strangers linked by urgency, danger, and the strange presence above. A rustle sounded from the ridge. Tim tensed. Jeffrey angled the flashlight upward. The creature watched again. Its outline filled the space between 2 trees. It held still, waiting. Not stalking now. Waiting. Jeffrey's body prepared for fear, yet something else rose instead. Curiosity. The creature never came closer when Tim spoke. It kept a distance, always above them, guiding rather than cornering. Tim whispered near Jeffrey's ear. "I think it means no harm." "You sound sure." "I survived 6 days down here. I could not reach water. My food supply ran out on day 2. I woke up once to see something drop berries near my head. It placed them, not tossed. It placed them." Jeffrey cupped Tim's elbow and helped him balance. "You believe it cares." Tim hesitated. "Sometimes survival itself feels like kindness." Jeffrey held Tim steady and issued a long breath. "We need to try for the lodge." Tim leaned into him. His weight pressed against Jeffrey's back as he climbed onto Jeffrey's shoulders. The contact felt intimate. Jeffrey supported Tim's thighs and positioned his arms around his neck. Tim's chin rested near the curve of his shoulder. The closeness stirred heat across Jeffrey's skin, not from exertion, but from awareness. "We will move slowly," Jeffrey said. "Tell me if you need to stop." Tim's voice touched his ear. Soft, trusting. "Okay." The words struck a tender place. Nobody trusted Jeffrey on instinct. Not at the studio, not on the crew. Nobody ever took him seriously. Here, under the watch of something massive and unknown, a stranger offered him trust without conditions. Jeffrey took his first step up the slope. Every muscle strained under Tim's weight, but his focus sharpened. Tim held on gently, his fingers curled near the collar of Jeffrey's shirt. Their breath mingled. Jeffrey felt responsible for Tim's life. He also felt something dangerous and new, something he tried to ignore. They climbed until they reached the ledge. Jeffrey paused to rest. Sweat dampened the back of his shirt from the effort. Tim's hand slid to Jeffrey's heart, steady, warm. "Thank you," Tim whispered again. A branch snapped. Jeffrey looked up. The creature still stood on the ridge, larger than any person. It gave no threat. Instead, it stepped aside, opening a clear path leading toward higher ground. It wanted them to follow. Tim tightened his hold around Jeffrey's shoulders. "See? I told you Jeffrey could not speak. He could not deny what he witnessed. The creature wanted them alive. Yet a question lived deep inside him, painful and urgent. Why? Why would something so powerful make space for two fragile men in the dark woods? Jeffrey lifted Tim's weight once more and began the climb. Jeffrey climbed with Tim on his back, planting each step with care. The slope contained slick leaves and loose stones. Moonlight filtered through branches in thin, broken strips. The weight on his shoulders burned through his muscles. He welcomed the pain. It kept him present. It kept him from thinking too much about the creature behind them. Tim's breath touched the side of Jeffrey's neck. Warm. Soft. "You can set me down when you need to. If I stop, I might collapse." "I do not want you hitting the ground again," Jeffrey pushed forward. "You are safer if I keep moving." Tim laughed quietly. The sound carried surprise, not humor. "You know, I pictured rescue crews or rangers, not a film crew member who looks like he ran here from a magazine shoot." Jeffrey nearly tripped. "A magazine shoot? You look fit. Strong." Grounded, Tim's hand slid along Jeffrey's collarbone while he adjusted his hold. "Someone like you does not feel real after 6 days alone." The words scattered Jeffrey's thoughts. He focused on the earth under his boots. The creature had shown them a path, a narrow cut between two ridges. Jeffrey moved along it with slow determination. The night air chilled his sweat. Sharp pine scent clung to his throat. Despite exhaustion, a sense of purpose drove him. "You keep doing that," Tim said gently. "Doing what?" "You push away every compliment. You take the smallest positive thing and brush it aside like it means nothing." Jeffrey sighed through his nose. "I have not heard many compliments." "Well, you are hearing one now." Tim tapped his chest. "Let it stay." Jeffrey did not answer. He wanted to. Words stuck, heavy and uncomfortable. Places he worked always praised the director or the cameraman. Never him. He blended into the crew, forgettable, replaceable. Tonight, a stranger clung to him like he was the only person on Earth. A branch snapped somewhere behind them. Jeffrey halted. "It is very close." He did not turn. He did not dare. Tim tried to peer over Jeffrey's shoulder. "I do not think it wants to hurt us." "You said it dropped food for you. Maybe it did not expect me." Jeffrey tightened his grip under Tim's thighs and pushed on. "Maybe it changed its mind." The forest opened into a small clearing. A creek shimmered with moonlight. Jeffrey slowed, lowered one knee, and eased Tim to the ground near a dry patch beside the water. His arms trembled from strain. The release of weight made him dizzy. Tim scooted until his back pressed to a boulder. "You carried me for a long stretch. You look drained." Jeffrey knelt beside him and took a moment to breathe. His chest rose and fell in quick succession. "We should drink while we can." He cupped water in his hands and brought it to Tim's lips. Tim drank in small swallows, watching Jeffrey with that steady gaze. When Jeffrey drank his own handfuls, the water cooled his throat. His mind sharpened. Tim spoke again. "Why did you join this crew?" "Work," Jeffrey said. "Experience. Exposure." "I need the job. That sounds like a surface reason." Jeffrey lifted his head. "You want the deeper reason." "I do. I want fame and fortune, and I gambled that there was actually something out there." Jeffrey stared at the creek. "If I found proof of Bigfoot, maybe I would matter." Tim's expression softened. "You matter because you climbed down into that ravine for me." He placed his fingers on Jeffrey's wrist. "Not because you're rich and famous." The touch held something simple yet intimate. Jeffrey felt caught between two truths. One, he wanted validation. Two, he wanted this moment with Tim to last. Footsteps echoed from the trees. Heavy, controlled. Jeffrey snapped upright. The creature stood across the creek, still as stone. Water separated them, but the distance felt thin. The air tightened between them. Tim whispered, "I don't know why it cares." "But I'm glad it does." The creature lowered its head. Not in threat, in recognition. Jeffrey grabbed the pack and helped Tim stand enough to climb onto his back again. He did not want to risk the creature changing its behavior. "We need to move." They reached the other side. The creature remained across the creek. It made no sound. It simply lifted one massive hand toward a rising slope on their left. A silent direction. Jeffrey stared at the new path. "It knows where we need to go." Tim's voice brushed his shoulder. "You see it too." Jeffrey felt torn. Fear told him to run. Something deeper told him to trust. He began the climb, step by step, breath against breath. "You saved me," Tim whispered. "No." The creature led me. Tim tightened his hold. "You chose to come down." "Not it. When you still thought it was trying to kill you, you stopped to save me." The words sank in. Jeffrey kept moving. The slope eased. The trees opened enough to reveal faint lights far off. Timberline Lodge sat in the distance, a warm glow against the forest. Jeffrey felt tears sting his eyes from relief. Behind them, the creature watched, not hunting, guarding. The lodge's lights flickered in the distance through long gaps in the trees. Jeffrey stopped on a flat patch of ground and eased Tim from his back. His arms trembled from effort. Tim let out a tight breath and leaned against a fallen trunk. His leg stayed bound with the torn lining from Jeffrey's jacket. Moonlight brushed Tim's face, pale with pain yet steady. "We are close," Jeffrey said. His voice thinned with exhaustion. "Once we reach the parking lot, they will see us." Tim nodded, though he looked drained. "You did more than I ever expected." "I owe you everything." Jeffrey reached for the camera bag. He slipped the recorder inside, then unzipped the second compartment. The small film camera waited inside, metal still warm from his body heat. He stared at it for a long moment. Tim watched him, silent, searching his expression. Jeffrey spoke low. "The creature might still be here. If I capture one clear frame, I will never be ignored again. They will need me. They will want me on every segment." Tim's brow tightened. "Think about what comes after. Not what you gain. This is proof. Jeffrey lifted the camera. I walked into the woods unknown. I can walk out with evidence that changes everything. A sharp crack split the silence. Jeffrey swung the flashlight toward the sound. The creature stepped into the clearing. It stood farther away than ever before, yet somehow larger with nothing blocking the view. Thick fur clung to its form. Scar tissue crossed one shoulder. Its breath fogged in the cold air. It looked neither wild nor calm, a presence filled with intention. Tim pushed himself upright and gripped Jeffrey's arm. Do not record it. Jeffrey kept the camera aimed. His pulse hammered inside him. A future so bright swirled through his thoughts. Fame, security, a place where people listened when he spoke. This is what I wanted, he whispered. Tim's voice remained quiet but firm. Look at it. Jeffrey forced himself to meet the creature's gaze. The eyes held a depth, not rage, not fear, something close to patience, something older than language. The creature did not flinch at the camera pointed at him. It did not retreat or attack. It simply existed, waiting for Jeffrey to choose. I survived because of it, Tim said. His thumb brushed Jeffrey's wrist. His touch grounded Jeffrey's spiraling thoughts. If you record it, if you tell everyone, people will come here, hunters, researchers, reporters. They will chase it until it cannot hide. Jeffrey's grip on the camera wavered. His life had been shaped by the hunger to be seen. He did not realize how powerful that hunger had become until now. Tim's voice softened. It kept me alive. It led you to me. Do not repay that with exposure. Jeffrey's throat tightened. He lowered the camera an inch, then hesitated again. If I walk back empty-handed, Jeffrey said, the crew will laugh. I will be a joke. They already treat me like one. Tim reached for his hand. Their fingers brushed. You found me. His voice broke. You carried me. You saved me, not because of a camera, because you cared. You're not a joke. The creature lifted one arm and pointed through the trees. A clear direction. The trail toward the lodge, toward safety. Jeffrey stared. It knows. Tim squeezed his hand. It always knew. Jeffrey lifted the camera again. His fingertip brushed the shutter release. He could bring proof to the world. He could betray the creature who guided him here. He could change everything. He lowered the camera. He powered it off. The creature let its arm fall back to its side. It breathed out slowly, a deep rumble carried on the air. It seemed to study them one more time, then turned away. Its huge form stepped into shadow, absorbed by the trees. Silence covered the clearing. Tim leaned against Jeffrey, more from relief than weakness. Thank you. Jeffrey felt something in his chest loosen, something held tight for years. I almost chose the wrong thing. You chose the living thing. Tim pressed his forehead near Jeffrey's cheek. Even when it scared you. Jeffrey knelt in front of him and helped him onto his back again. Tim wrapped his arms around him. Their closeness no longer came from survival. It came from trust. They walked until the trees thinned. The lodge lights glowed bright ahead. Gravel replaced dirt. Voices called out in shocked bursts when they emerged onto the path. 2 lodge employees rushed toward them with blankets and radio calls for emergency services. Jeffrey lowered Tim onto a bench. Tim gripped his hand, refusing to let go. You did not need proof, Tim said. You needed someone who saw you. Jeffrey blinked hard. He leaned close and touched his forehead to Tim's. I saw you. Several minutes later, sirens approached from the road. The air filled with motion and noise. Jeffrey looked back toward the forest. No movement. Only darkness swallowing the trail where the creature once stood. He placed the camera in his lap and rested a hand over it. Empty. Yet he felt more full than ever. Jeffrey sat in a small room at the nearest hospital. A nurse moved between cabinets while Jeffrey filled out an incident report. His handwriting wobbled from fatigue. His palm left faint sweat marks on the clipboard. The floor felt steady under him, but his thoughts still lived in the forest. The smell of pine remained in his clothes. Tim rested on a narrow bed, foot raised in a padded sling. Someone had cleaned the dirt from his skin. Warm blankets covered him from chest to ankle. He slept when they arrived, worn out from pain and dehydration. Now he watched Jeffrey with clear eyes. "You keep staring at the exit," Tim said. His voice held calm, no rush. Jeffrey blinked and lowered the clipboard. "I keep listening for footsteps outside the window." "From it?" "Yes." Tim eased himself upright on his elbows. He watched Jeffrey without fear. Jeffrey knew the animal wouldn't come this close to any town. Knowing did not dampen the strange hope that lingered. He pictured the creature watching from the tree line, hidden and patient. He wondered if it knew they reached safety. He wondered if leaving meant closing that connection forever. "You look uneasy," Tim said. "I told myself I could live without proof," Jeffrey said, "but there is a quiet part of me that wants to run back into those trees with the camera." Tim studied him, then moved his hand across the blanket, inviting touch. Jeffrey took it. Their fingers linked without effort. Tim's skin felt warm, grounding. "You walked away from something many people would chase," Tim said. "You chose privacy for a creature that cannot protect itself from people with money and rifles." Jeffrey lowered his gaze. "If I tell no one, I gain nothing from this." "You gained me." The words landed in a tender place. Jeffrey lifted his eyes. Tim spoke without embarrassment or guardedness. His voice stayed plain, steady, like a truth he accepted before speaking it. "You could claim I imagined everything," Jeffrey said. Tim smiled. "Then we share the same imagination." Tim sat up straighter. "Before you decide anything, hear me. You are scared you will go back to being invisible." "Yes," Jeffrey whispered. "I'll return to the crew as the quiet assistant." Tim looked toward the window, toward the forest beyond it. "You are not invisible to me." The decision flooded Jeffrey with panic. Proof meant power, but he had seen the creature's eyes. They held patience, not fear, love and not hate. Tim's shoulders relaxed. "You protected something rare." Jeffrey leaned close, foreheads nearly touching. Tim's breath mingled with his. Their hands remained linked. "Thank you for trusting me," Jeffrey said. "You trusted me first," Tim answered. His thumb moved lightly across Jeffrey's knuckles. "When you climbed down that ravine," Jeffrey shook his head. "I climbed down because I heard a scream. You stayed because you cared." Silence filled the space between them, warm instead of heavy. They looked at each other in a way two people look when they both know survival shaped intimacy far quicker than normal time. Outside, the night wind moved across the lodge walls. A soft hush, like distant movement through pine. Jeffrey spoke first. "I never felt chosen by anyone." Tim squeezed his hand. "You are chosen now." Slowly, with no rush toward an end, Jeffrey leaned forward. Tim met him halfway. Their lips touched with careful pressure. No urgency, only awareness. Tim's fingers slid to the back of Jeffrey's neck. Jeffrey's free hand rested near Tim's waist, steady but gentle. The kiss held vulnerability. A silent promise formed without words. When they parted, Tim rested his forehead against Jeffrey's. "Where does this go once I am out of here?" Jeffrey answered without hesitation. "Where we want it to." A nurse entered with paperwork for Tim's release. She thanked Jeffrey for bringing him in and stepped out again. Jeffrey packed his bag. Tim watched him with a tired smile. "You can go with me if you want." "Where are you going?" Jeffrey said. Tim smiled. "I don't know." Definitely done with the woods for a while, though Jeffrey took one last look through the window. The pines beyond the lodge swayed. For a moment he sensed something vast watching from the tree line. Not hunting, not trapped. Present. He whispered inside his own mind, without sound. "You're safe." Then he reached for Tim's hand to help him up. Then, with Tim on crutches, they walked toward the hallway together. Not as a rescuer and a victim, not as strangers pulled together by fear, but as two people who found a reason to care in a place where nobody expects connection. Their future began in silence, built on a secret the world would never receive.
Please make sure you are subscribed and be one of the strange.